Hey everybody, I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. This one is called Rites and Rituals, Harnessing the Power of Sacred Ceremony. And before I introduce these amazing guests to you today, I want to say a huge thank you to Ariana Platten. Ariana, we would not be here without you. She is our lead author of this project, and your vision for this book was big and juicy, and I love how you pulled together this roster of author experts for this particular topic. You know, wait till you hear our authors' messages about rites and rituals and ceremony and the ways you can infuse these sacred moments into your life. So thank you, Ariana. I am very, very grateful to be in your world. You guys, I have Kat Sparks with me. She is the woman behind Third Act Travels in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. I hope I got that right, where she assists women to reclaim their essence through ceremony, coaching, and community. Reverend Mark J. Platten is the founder of Integral Human Initiative, where he produces courses, books, and trainings to help us become the best version of ourselves. Misty Dawn Shakti Sharma is a registered nurse. I just love saying your name, Misty. I love it. She's a registered nurse, poetess, writer, and speaker. She assists others to connect to their own divinity. And Susan Thompson is known for her huge heart and her insight. And let me introduce these guys to you today. I can't wait. Kat, you're going to be up first. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
It is such a pleasure to be part of this book. And I know it's going to touch so many lives. My chapter is chapter 7, Life After Grief. And I think I can really sum it up with my first sentence. My husband took his life by his own hand. But this chapter is my story, not his. And it's about me reclaiming my life, my essence here in San Miguel de Allende.
You know, it had to be, you had to feel some courage to write that story. Was it like that for you?
Courage, foolishness, it was a little bit of everything. But it was better therapy for me than I've ever had to put my words on paper and to share it so other people have a chance to realize there is life there that you can reclaim and recreate. Because whenever you lose someone like I did, your definition of self, which is mother, partner, husband, wife, child, changes. And so you have to redefine the definition.
What do you think the most important part about that identity is? What do you want people to know about that?
That grief never goes away, but there are ways to relieve it out of the body. So not only your mind, your spirit, and your body can heal. And I think that's really what I was aiming at in this chapter is I shared a ceremony I did here in San Miguel de Allende years ago and helped other women and myself at the same time through a ritual.
I also appreciate you talking about the process of the writing, of course, because it's my jam. But this isn't any small potatoes thing. I think I want to tell our listeners how brave and vulnerable all of our authors have been. And I will say thank you to all of you right now for not just for saying yes to the project, but for stepping up to my challenge of placing your heart on the page and allowing other people to feel that heart of yours. But then in addition, you guys, the master teachings that are in this book are phenomenal. And you all you do that every day with people that you're with, and you're so good at it. But it isn't quite another challenge to actually put it in black and white on the page in a way that the reader has an experience. You are all so good at that. So thank you. Thank you for taking up the challenge. And Kat, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mark, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Yeah, sure. So my chapter is chapter 21, which is Conversations with Death, Befriending the Grim Reaper Through Daily Practices. And it's interesting, Kat, that you talked about, your chapter and your ceremony, and I'm kind of right after that. For me, this kind of came about unexpectedly and through more of a spiritual pathway of doing what I call the inner quest, which is a kind of a derivation of the Native American vision quest. And so I was out in nature, and I've been doing this for 20 some years now. I was out in nature doing this 4-day quest, fasting from food, but not from water, but fasting from food. And during that process, what I typically do is build a fire circle. And I do some ceremonial work around that. And this particular time in this particular quest, I was told by spirit or invited by spirit to put the fire together, but not to light it, and to create what they called a dark fire. It's like, okay, this is interesting. What does that even mean? And so as I did that, it was really a different energy around a dark fire. So I set up the fire circle and had all the kindling and everything in there and lit it with my intention as opposed to a physical match. And then what transpired from there was me being invited after I did some ceremonial stuff to lay down upon the ground with my back on the ground and just go into deep meditative state. And at that point, death arrived. And what I later found out was grandfather death, as I call him familiarly now or warmly now, as grandfather death. And what he did, he talked with me for a bit, and then we went up on his mighty black Pegasus showed up, and I'm thinking, how cliche is this? And it's like, okay, and this is all, again, and it's not literal. I'm doing this in basically a shamanic journey kind of framework in, astral traveling and so forth. So I'm taking this ride on this Pegasus, and we're circling around for a while, and all of a sudden I can see this young little girl on the ground, standing there just kind of by herself in her nightgown, probably 6 or 7 years old, long blonde hair. And she's just kind of like she's just woken up from sleep. And we're circling down. It's like, oh no, this, and as we circle, all of a sudden she looks up and she has this look of terror on her face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what can I do to get kind of step in? We're going to land, and this, this death guy is going to, Grim Reaper is going to go and take her. I've got to do everything I can to kind of, she's too young. I'm going to step in between here, and I have to fight him if I can, whatever it is. And as soon as we land, she looks over to him and smiles and comes up to him. And it was like such a poignant thing for me. It stuck with me for these, and it's been, 17, 18 years since this happened. But she wasn't afraid of death. Death had been a partner with her for quite some time. She had walked with death for many years, I'm guessing. It was me. I was the outsider coming in there, the unknown. And so she was weary of me. And so she grabbed Death's hand, and they just walked in it wasn't like a gateway or anything like that, just walked in whatever direction they took off to. And Death looked back at me and kind of winked at me and gave me that nod, kind of like, this is important for you to pay attention to. So this chapter is about the relationship with death that we have on a daily basis. It's in our culture, in, I'll say, the Western culture or Western society, we're afraid of two things: sex and death. We don't talk about it. We don't, and so that's where our wounds lie, right? That's where we have all the shadow work that pops up around those, because we're afraid to talk about those. And so my chapter, the kind of the ceremonial stuff I talk about afterward is, how do we befriend death on a daily basis? How do we look at the small deaths and recognize that with a death is always a beginning? It's a doorway on both sides of that. And then, interestingly enough, that shortly after writing this chapter, my father passed, and I was blessed to fly in the day he died, or the night right before he passed. And I was able to spend some time with him. And as my brother stepped out of the room, it was just myself and Dad, and be able to give my father the words of saying, it's okay to go on. You don't have to stick around. We've all been here. We love you. Thank you for everything. Ooh. And he was able to release. And that was really powerful with that. So that's kind of the core of my particular chapter.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those pieces. And I think y'all are already feeling the heart and soul that's in this book, and these beautiful faces that you're staring at. I'm so honored that you all are here, doing this powerful work. And anything that I asked the authors today, these questions that we're going to get into, we could be here for days talking about, and they have so much wisdom. And I love it so much. And I really want to ask you about astral travel, but I'm going to rein myself in. But just know, you guys, that some of these things that you're hearing today, if it's making you curious, then good. Because then all of a sudden we have to ask ourselves, what else is possible? And that is exciting to me, Mark, thanks for being here. Misty, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Thank you so much, Laura. First, I just want to say I'm in gratitude to be here with the bravery of all the authors, and gratitude to you and Ariana as well. My chapter is chapter 19, The Journey Within, Awakening Your Own Spiritual Divinity. And it looks at a moment in time where I had gone through my own trials and tribulations, going from being a young teenage mother, going through a divorce, and coming to a moment after a lot of struggle where I was able to have a moment with myself. And I was really longing, and I was really seeking my spiritual self and to understand. And in that moment, I was seeking things outside of myself, and I was able to start some amazing breath work and meet different people who held space for me on that healing journey. And what I ultimately found was that everything that I needed was within me, and how to connect to my own divinity. And I wanted to go back and look at that moment in time when I wrote this chapter, and try to break it down, because it was really complex, but kind of into the steps of what I was experiencing as I was having the spiritual awakening that I'm still on, but a moment in time where it really stands out, where I was really able to connect and claim my own spiritual self and my own divine self, and what that felt like, in hopefully a positive way. And I also call attention that it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like, even though it felt really big for me, even when I think back on it, what it really was following the longing. Longing is a catalyst for transmutation, and really just taking the time, even just breathing with myself was like a tiny miracle. So I wanted to bring that back to women and to other people who maybe don't think they have the time, or maybe don't know how to get started, to just kind of say, it's okay. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe just sit and breathe with yourself. And this is this huge journey, or a glimpse of what I went through, and just doing that.
You were so great just now, because I was having a moment when you talked about how you were searching for something, but you said it. If you guys see me looking down, it's because I'm scribbling your words on my notebooks. Longing is a catalyst for transformation. So I want to rewind you to that. Tell me more about how people can connect, because a longing inside is not always a great feeling to feel. We may actually run in the other direction when we're feeling that feeling. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, you said it. It's kind of like what Mark said, death, sex, and longing. We have a lot of guilt around our longing, because if we long, then we're being ungrateful, right, for what's currently in our life. So what I found, though, is when I sat with that feeling, that longing, and kind of went on a journey with it and was open to it, I saw what was behind it, and I was able to really connect through it. And so I do think it led to transformation and transmutation in my life. And so I followed it with love. I followed it with career and vocation. I followed it with this project, and longing to wanting to do more writing projects. So when it shows up, it's kind of like one of those things, right? Like intuition or gut feeling. It's like, okay, this is showing up, and let me sit with this. Let me flow with this. let me be open to this and see where it leads me. So instead of judging it or feeling shameful, I kind of put that message out that everybody has longing, and it's beautiful actually if you can kind of sit with it and be open to it.
Yes, agreed. Thank you, Misty.
Thank you.
Susan, are you ready with that crazy video happening today? Tell us about
I know.
tell us about your amazing chapter.
My chapter is chapter 5. It is called A Flower in a Mud Bog, which I have been referred to a few times in my life. And it's about overcoming family dysfunction with radical self-love. And my sexual child abuse started when I was 5 years old and continued until about 14 or 15. And it was pretty, like, at least once a week. And I had gone to a lot of therapists later on because I was seeing how this abuse was changing my life. I wasn't able to live a normal life with what had happened to me. So I went to a lot of different therapists, but mainly we just sat in a chair and looked at each other and talked about things. And when I finally met this Native American therapist, she actually had me doing some work that's self-work, and it really, the things that she had me do just really helped. And I could tell a difference in my frame of mind and how I felt after the ritual was done. And I had been searching for that for so long, and just to be able to do that with yourself. And let's see if I can fix this there.
So you said soul work. I want to make sure I heard the first word correctly.
Yes.
Okay. So when same, and healers and people who have been on a journey are definitely famous for throwing around terms, or some of us are like, what is that? So that, again, like when Mark mentioned the astral travel, that's like I dipped my toe in this past year about that, realized I was doing it with the help of a guide who could describe and help me talk about, and then you make this connection. And then when you make a connection to something like that, it can change your life because you can understand something at a whole nother level that you weren't at the minute before, right? So when you say soul work, tell me a little bit more about how that was feeling. What was the transformation there?
Well, because of my sexual child abuse, I became, had a hard time with sex. I had a hard time with relationships, and I did care about myself. I felt like I was just this soul, I was just this way for men to please themselves, and I didn't have any boundaries or anything like that. And so I didn't care about myself. And so when I did that ritual, I felt like I had my soul back. I felt like I now could go out into the world, and I didn't want to just jump back into my ways that I was doing before that hurt me so much. I could say I have boundaries now. And because I cleansed myself, the light and the water, and I didn't want to just go out now and do what I had been doing, because I became very promiscuous from this sexual child abuse, and I didn't want to do that. And so this ritual really helped me, because I felt like now I'm valued. Now I have something that is mine. Is mine now.
You're making me think a lot of reclaiming our worth. We were born so we're worthy, but there are things that take that feeling away from us, all kinds of different things. And feeling whole as a soul, when you're talking about boundaries, that's what that makes me think about a little bit, is just reclaiming that worth.
Yeah, I totally, when I heard about this book, I totally knew I wanted to write about that experience, because that, out of all of the therapy and everything that I went through to try to make myself functional, that made the biggest difference in my whole work. It really made me feel whole again, and it it was just an amazing feeling, and I carry that feeling with me.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for being here. So what you're talking about is so perfect for this next question I want to ask all of you, because when you incorporate ritual into your life, it doesn't have to be the big things that we think about, like weddings and funerals. It could be the small way you do the soul work and you incorporate your worth, or set one boundary with one person new, that you've never set before. So I've noticed this profound effect that sacred rituals have had in my own life. It's really not just those big events. It could be how you put intention into your morning cup of coffee. Honestly, it could be small like that. Mark, what has that sacred ceremony or ritual meant in your life, and maybe some of those smaller ways? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, great question, Laura. So, for me, it really is the foundation of who I am and what gives me centeredness in the world when everything else seems to be running amok. It gives me the grounding and the connection. It gives me purpose and guidance with that. So, I mean, I love the saying that if we can make the mundane sacred and the sacred mundane, that will change the world and how we move through it, which means to me that if we can make every little thing, every little action, from brushing our teeth to taking a shower to how we make our bed in the morning, because it was the vessel, the sacred temple that held our body during the dream time, those simple little acts, and putting intention behind them changes how I approach the day and how I move through the day. And when something comes up, instead of reacting to it, I get the choice to respond to it, and to sit back and be and pull forth the tools I have available to me to navigate some of those difficult situations. So it's been really rich that way for me.
I love what you said about the bed. I mean, this place we spend a third of our life, I think that's the stat, like, why haven't more of us created a ritual in that resting space and that environment, right? I know that I think about that a lot more, but you just got me to think about my teeth brushing too, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd actually like to interject, if I could, just a simple ritual I do every morning before I get up. I give 3 acts of gratitude just before my feet hit the ground. And then I also ask for my divine appointment of the day. And that leads people into my path that I can either aid or learn from. And so it's been life-changing for me to incorporate that in.
Yes, awesome. Awesome. So, Misty, how about you for this one? What has that meant for you in maybe a little, it could be little, medium, or big, where does that show up in your daily life?
Well, I think, in my chapter, I talk about how I went for a year to do breath work. And it was the first time in my life, I was in my early 20s, where I had ever just sat down alone by myself and breathed and focused on the breath, besides maybe a yoga class. And so that was really amazing for me. And it was also the first time I really got to speak about spirituality with people. And so it filtered that longing. And so that experience made me understand that I show up as a feeling being here. I feel first, and I have a strong spiritual self. And so I want to approach this universe, this time, from a soul first interaction with myself and everyone. And so now, that just filters into a lot of different things, because I'm very open to working and channeling or prayer, whatever you want to call it, and being open to the divine, however that moves through me. I do still use my manifestation jar. This is a Shiva vase. Before I even knew really what manifestation jars were, I used this, and I talk about this tool in my book, and I still write and put things in here. And I know, Laura, you've spoken about writing and how when you write, you heal. So for me, when I write or I speak, there is a healing, there's a deep meditation in that. And I do carve out that time for myself where I come into my space that I have set up, and my children, my husband understand when I'm in that mode. I have my bendies on, I have my beautiful things around me, and I'm in my universe, my place that I can be 100%, myself. And really, there's a lot of different practices that come through that. But I think the breath, breathing, and just keeping myself centered that I'm a soul, I'm a spirit, and showing up through that, however my day flows.
I love that. I love that you show and tell, Gervais. Thank you. But breath work, a profound entry point, instant. So pretty darn powerful. Thank you for mentioning that one. Susan, how about you in terms of these rituals that you've put into your day? Tell us about yours.
Well, they when it kind of came out that I was being sexually abused, it really messed up my life, and my family and would say things like, "Just get over it. You just need to get over it." And I didn't want to get over it, because if I got over it, they could say, "See, it wasn't that bad." So I kind of used that to stay sick for a really long time, and used as an excuse, because I didn't want them to be able to say. But then I realized that all I was doing was just hurting myself, and that I was the one who had to make myself better, and I was the one who had to get over this. So I started searching for the rituals and things that would help me make myself feel better for myself. And that's what these rituals do, because I'm a hands-on person, and in being in a room with someone, it was nice, and it's nice to have someone to talk to, but these rituals are just so amazing to help you get back to self-connection.
Yeah, self-connection is
So
huge.
that's what helps me, is just.
Yeah, you said something pretty huge that I want to pause on for a minute, because y'all are dropping nuggets of awareness that could literally change somebody's life if they let that in for a moment. So sometimes I feel like I want to pause you all in these nuggets. But when Susan was talking about, she caught herself not giving herself permission to get over it, because that would mean, you fill in the blank, it would mean that it wasn't true, or it would mean whatever it would mean. Right there is some pretty profound awareness. And Mark said it earlier, your ability to move from a triggered reaction to a response means everything in life, where you then get to choose your path. And I wanted to pause on that one, Susan, because I know there are a lot of people listening to your story and nodding their head, and they're gonna resonate. Thank all of you for being so brave about sharing. Kat, you started sharing a little bit about this earlier, but what else do you want to say about this in terms of ritual in your daily life?
Ritual in my daily life, like I said before, even my feet hit the ground, I set my day by starting with gratitude, by asking for divine appointments. And then it makes me more conscious and in the moment. San Miguel de Allende is an absolutely magical place. The right people at the right time, you get in the flow, and there are some amazing healers here. And I'm very honored to be part of it. And every day I get to learn from one of them. So that's one of my intents, is to, when I'm out, is learn what other people are doing so that I can incorporate it. So in my days, I start and I end with gratitude. I don't care if I even just get up and say, thank God I'm still breathing, because some days they start that way, but we can turn it around. And that's my message, is no matter what you're walking through intent and through ritual and ceremony and community and finding like-minded people to come together, you can overcome. And we aren't alone. And that's part of my chapter, is yes, your loved one has left, but you're not alone. And we can reach out to each other.
Yes, Kat. I'm gonna slide right into a really important question to all of you, and it's really what Kat is talking about. Misty, I'm gonna start with you for this and continue that theme that Kat just started for us. For me, community has meant absolutely everything. The difference between success and failure in life. Having a witness that wasn't just myself, that's important. And even journaling, writing what's inside and making it out loud to writing outside on my notebook, that's an awareness tool where I become even my own witness. But then when you take that beyond into your community, even to one other person, something else happens. It's important, right? So Misty, tell me what community has meant to you.
I love this question. It's such a powerful question and thing to talk about. You know, community hasn't always meant family for me. And I don't think I think that's the case for a lot of people, right? So I've actually had to walk away from a lot of abuse in family and just not feeling at peace with my family. So for me, it's shown up through teachers in my education. I've had some really profound teachers that held the space and just gave me hope and were there encouraging me. I think teachers are very powerful. I had my teacher in the 8 key breaths of Ding LeMay, which I talk about in my chapter. He was my first experience ever meeting a spiritual man, which was very transformational for me and the way I wanted to manifest love and experience love in the world. He saw me as the daughter of God and said, "You're perfect and you're perfection. And I want you to see that." And that was very transformational for me because I was able to see that about myself. And then, you know, getting to write and speak and have these opportunities to share, as a writer and also as a nurse, because a lot of what I do as a nurse is listen to really painful and difficult stories that people are carrying. And I get to hold that space for them and shine on them, you know, their own connection, their own divine self, and just kind of walk alongside them. So I've had really powerful experiences in not being afraid to share my spiritual journey, both in nursing and as just my own self, being empowered to do that. I had a women's book club that we did for a year where we read female authors and talked about the divine feminine. And that was an amazing just blessing from the divine to come together as women and do a lot of healing. So I think it's very important, however your community shows up. I think that's the biggest thing I want to tell people is like, what works for me may work for you. It may not work for you, whether that be religion, spirituality, but however your community, whatever feels good to you, feels safe to you, feels encouraging to you, you'll know it and flow with it.
Yes, I love listening to you talk about that. What feels good, what helps you feel like you're becoming a better person.
And
You
what feels
can,
safe, you know,
yes, safe is
safety.
important.
Because people need, if you don't feel safe, and I think I talk about that too, like there were moments in my life it just wasn't safe. It wasn't safe to self-heal. It wasn't safe to be alone with my own spirit. There was too many other things going on. Maybe I had moments, but I think you need to feel safe and you need to get yourself where you feel safe, and then you can allow and explore and you know, but you should always be checking in. Does this feel safe? Does this feel okay? You know, where am I with this? I think that's so important for healing, self-healing.
Thank you. Susan, I'm going to come to you next for this. What has the community meant for you?
Well, I think my community is only because when it finally came out, everything that was happening to me, my family sort of turned on a bit. And the feeling safe, there wasn't a place I was safe anywhere. And so for my community, I turn to what I call kids critters, because my horses and kids, they're my community. They're where I feel safe. I don't have any kids of my own, but I mentor a lot of kids. And they make me feel important and like I'm making a difference. And the same thing with my horses, and I'm totally safe around them. They do the things to me that my family had to me. So when I think of my community, I would have to say that it would where I feel safe with my kids and critters.
I love that you included the sacred creatures, the animals. I think that a lot of us can resonate with our pets and the beautiful unconditional love space that we get to be in when we're with animals. I love that, Susan. Thank you.
Mhm.
Kat, how about you for this? What has community meant for you?
You know, I spent the last 11 years in Seattle. And there they have the Seattle chill is real. You go to talk to someone and they look over their shoulder like, who are you talking to? Coming to San Miguel has been like a breath of fresh air, a long drink of water, and so soothing to my soul because our community here is strong. We're a small town. A lot of us know each other. I can't walk down the street without running into someone in my community and then going, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. And the pace here allows us to do that. That simple connection of being with other women, other people, other guys who are spiritual and who are in tune with how they can enhance the community is absolutely amazing. And I am so thankful to be here. It has reignited my soul literally with our community here.
I love hearing stories about places where that becomes, it is a priority. So it becomes a foundation for everyone's lives and
Yeah.
healing journey. It's really wonderful.
And it's, you can get your alone time here, but you have to carve it out. And I really thrive on that. Communities should support one another. And I think that I was at a dinner the other night and a woman's birthday, we all were coming to celebrate her. One of the women had a little bit of a hard time and she started to express it. And she goes, wait, I only want to bring positive vibes to this party. We can talk later. I was like, yes, that is the mindset I want to be around. That's the community I belong to.
Nice. I like that story. Mark, how about you on this one? What has community meant for you?
Again, another good question. I love all your responses there. I'm going to lean more toward kind of where Susie was with things, is that I've been such a relative lone wolf, and I'll use that and it's really term with that, a big portion of my life. And so although I enjoy being with people and I love even more being in nature by myself and connecting in there. And so community for me has always been around. And since I grew up on a farm in Eastern Iowa, and so connecting with nature, to the unseen, if you will, for many people, but the divine sacred connections there. And so when I go through difficulties, whatever those may be, losing relationships or other things that might happen, there is always this, I never lose my relationship with the sacred and the holy divine. I'm always surrounded. So I spent a year living in a basically a one-room cabin, just communing with nature, doing all kinds of writing and journaling and ceremony and stuff like that. And at the end of that phase, it was interesting. Spirit's like, you've learned all these things over these last 15 years or so. If you just keep it to yourself, it will essentially have been wasted. And so you've got it, but it's going to be wasted because it's great, good for you, and you can do these things and connect in. But what really needs to happen is to reintegrate back into community and share what you've learned. And so this is one of those processes that I'm doing, writing books like my book, The Art of Connecting with Nature. I really kind of explore that more, but it truly is, then I have a deeper well of reserve and connection to be able to share with other people. It does take me I really have to stretch sometimes because I'm much more, I don't want to say comfortable, it's just where I naturally tend to go towards is nature. But it's been rich and rewarding doing this kind of work. I did a year's worth of men's work with different men's groups. That's been very powerful as well. And doing some online training and programs right now that kind of seed all this. So, yeah.
I think there's something about what you said and what all of you said, but you and Susan, when animals, nature. The thing is the need can change with community. And it's good to understand that you will go through phases in your life where you need more solitude and some phases where you need more connection. And it is okay to ride the wave and get what you need in the moment. So nothing is right or wrong. It's only what you need then. So connecting to yourself. And this is going to be this last question that I want to ask all of you kind of has to do with that. But, we authors, teachers, we like to talk about ourselves as guides or facilitators on the journey. We know that we don't fix people. We know that there's nothing broken. But we do like to help empower people to connect to their inner wisdom and to ride those waves and understand that they can ask for what they need in those moments, right? So Susan, I'm going to start with you. What's that one thing today that you want our viewers to know about that connecting into that inner wisdom? What's that one thing that matters to you the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that one thing that matters to me most is to know that you can get back on here. You can make the world a better place by being in it. And I think that just teaching people that it's no matter what you go through, you have to find the answers in yourself and in the spirit, and just try to do everything that you can to make things better for the other people and for yourself. So I think if I had to say the one thing, I would say just make the world a better place because you're in it.
I love it. Beautiful, powerful. Thank you. Kat, how about you? What's that one thing you want our viewers to know today about being on this journey and connecting to that inner wisdom?
In my chapter, my ceremony uses a Native American ceremony of the Black Rock. And by doing our work and doing our processes and doing community and coaching and ceremony, we make room for the light to be inside of us and to shine. So we have to do our work, be in touch with divinity, find it within ourselves, find it within the people we surround ourselves with. And then when we find that divinity, clean the house. Make sure that you're stepping up as absolutely as the best person you can be in the moment.
I love that. Clean house. Yes. Inside, outside, all the cleaning.
All of that. Yes.
Mark, how about you? What's that one thing you want people to know?
Yeah, I think I'll tie it back to my chapter, which is really paying attention to those little deaths that happen and befriend them and be aware of them. And because this is all impermanent, none of us get out of this alive. And so if you think you do, you're kidding yourself. So we know where this all ends for all of us. So what do we do about that? Can we be in relationship with that in a way that gives us permission to be curious and to really, just like that little girl that I saw in my journey there, grab hold of death's hand, because he or she or it is standing right beside us every day, every step of our walk, as our greatest companion if we let that happen. And it is my hope that when I go with just great curiosity and wonder about what this next thing is that I'm being taken into.
I like that. I like curiosity until the end. And what a better feeling than fear. Misty, how about you?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing that's helped me and that I want to encourage in others is to see, pray, and be in devotion of the holiness and the divine that's within you and is within everything and everyone. I think it's, very easy for us to dehumanize each other, judge each other. And some of that's just auto brain, some of that's media. And I think when we can pray the holy in each other, like we would any god, goddess, anything else, it's transformational, because even the people that hurt us, even the trauma, we can see that being there, and hopefully be able to forgive, and so we stop hurting ourselves. So I think it's transformational to pray the divine in ourselves and in others.
That's a powerful way to close out today. Misty, Susan, Kat, Mark, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it. Thanks, you guys. So I want to invite all of our viewers today. I know that you heard something said today that is making you curious. Maybe you have a question, or you're just wanting to continue this amazing conversation. Drop down into the show notes, because I have all of our authors hooked up with their contact info, their websites. And this book is phenomenal, but there's a mission to bring you a community beyond the book. And our authors are so generously there for you to answer that question or help you take the next step. So go explore all of the awesomeness that they are up to. And of course, you're invited to the book launch party. That's going to be on February 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'm going to be gathering with all of our Rites and Rituals authors. You're going to find the invite on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. And I have that linked up down below for you as well. And if you happen to be listening to our interview anytime around that February 18th mark, well, then that means you got to hop over to Amazon and pick up your book and start this beautiful journey. Lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.